Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Ali and let's talk about finance. In today's video, I wanted to discuss a real life situation that I dealt with just a few weeks ago, which I thought would be very interesting for you guys to take a look at. I had a person reach out to me a few weeks ago that they wanted to discuss their own situation and talk about how they can go about saving for their first home. This particular person, the reason that they reached out to me was because they got to a point in their career where they're making good money, but they're really having a hard time saving and investing their money. Just for the sake of this video, I'm gonna call this person Jane. So here are some details about Jane. Jane has a salary of $96,000, which is about $71,000 after taxes. So one thing I discovered was Jane actually has a defined benefit plan, which she contributes through her employer into this particular plan. So that means that they're already putting aside some money towards retirement. So that means they have about $2,400 every 2 weeks, or about $5,200 every month to work with. So Jane told me that her expenses are about $2,360 a month, and that she's saving anywhere between $500 to $750 into a tax-free savings account or a first home savings account. So in total, right now, Jane has about $11,000 saved, $8,000 in a first home savings account, and $3,000 in a tax-free savings account. Here's one of the reasons for why Jane really reached out. She always finds that her bank account is always in overdraft. So even though she makes good money and her expenses are relatively low, she still doesn't have enough money at the end of the month. So the very first question that I asked Jane was, well, where is the other money going? When we're taking a look at the amount of savings and the amount that she's spending, there's about $2,100 to $2,300 that are unaccounted for. And that's a lot of spending. Over the entire year, that's over $25,000 of spending that you are not accounting for. One thing that I also uncovered with Jane is the fact that anytime her bank account was in overdraft, she was using her money from her tax-free savings account and transferring it over to her bank account to make up for the difference. When you really take a look at everything that's happened here, first of all, Jane is actually not aware of her spending. That is the very first thing that needs to be fixed, is she needs to become a little bit more aware of her spending and where that money is going. The second thing as well is she needs to keep in mind that the money that she has in her savings, so whether it's the first home savings account or whether it's the tax-free savings account, that money is not to be touched in those particular situations. So the reason that she called me was because she wants to save for a down payment to purchase her first home by as late as the end of the year 2026. So now the question is, how do we make this happen? The very first thing that I told Jane is stop putting money into a tax-free savings account. Any money that's being allocated to the tax-free savings account, put it towards the first home savings account. Now there's a reason I suggested this, and the reason for that is because I don't want Jane to continue to use her tax-free savings account as a way to make up for any overspending that she's been doing. So by putting it into a first home savings account, that automatically forces her to not be able to touch that money. So right away, she becomes more aware of the fact that the money that she is spending, she may not have access to money from a tax-free savings account to make up for any differences in that overspending. The other reason for why I suggested to put as much money into the first home savings account is because when you max out the first home savings account, you not only get a tax deduction when you go to file your taxes, you also get to withdraw that money tax-free when you actually go to purchase that property. So it really is a win-win in this case because of the fact that this will really help her purchase that first property, but it'll also help her because she will get a tax deduction and she needs to take full advantage of the tax deductions that she received in the first home savings account to reduce the taxable income that she has when she goes to file her taxes. When she gets that tax deduction, she's going to get an even bigger tax return when she goes to file her taxes, and then that's additional money that she could put towards savings towards that down payment of that first home. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to touch on with this specific case is when it came to suggestions and recommendations for Jane to do in order to get her closer to her goal, I didn't tell her to increase her savings by X amount of dollars. Yes, that's definitely something that she can do, but a little bit further down the line. And the reason for that is because she needs to get herself into the mindset of being aware and tracking her expenses first before adding to those savings. The last thing you want is to take somebody and squeeze them and make them feel like they don't have any room to breathe because they're putting as much as they can into savings. At the end of the day, life does happen and you still want to enjoy your time. Become aware of where that money is going, and then naturally you will cut down on what you're spending on. Now, with that being said, if Jane were to really settle down with the expenses and really focus on where that money is going, here are a couple of things that she can do. Now, once Jane has an idea of where all that money is going and is able to cut back on some of her expenses, here are a few things that I would suggest. One, there are still $2,100 to $2,300 left over at the end of the month. With that, I would say that you can still save $1,000 a month from that, on top of the savings that are already happening, which, like I said, was about $500 to $750. Now, that sounds like a lot. However, I'm still leaving about $1,100 to $1,300 on top of the necessary expenses for Jane to spend. Now, that's still a lot of money to be spending on a monthly basis on top of the fixed expenses. Now, what that would do for Jane is, one, it would max out her first home savings account. It would also allow her to save in a registered retirement savings plan for the home buyers plan, and potentially put some money into a tax-free savings account to help with building that down payment. Now, what happens is, if she's saving an extra $1,000, so let's say, for example, she's been saving $500. Just keep it nice and easy, $500 a month. That's about $6,000 a year. Now, if you add an extra $1,000 a month, that's an additional $12,000. Now you're at $18,000 in 1 year. And keep in mind, that's $18,000 that you're putting in. That's not including interest that you would earn. That's not including potential growth if you're investing that money. That's just money that you're contributing. Now, do that over 2 years, and that $18,000 is $36,000 that is contributed into those accounts that I mentioned earlier. But also keep in mind that she's not starting from zero. She's starting with $11,000 total in her savings. So when you combine $36,000 over 2 years on top of the $11,000 that she has, that's $47,000 that she has towards a down payment for a property, not including interest, not including potential growth if that money is being invested. If Jane is gaining interest or gaining a little bit of money from investing it, now that could of course be at $50,000 or over $50,000. Now keep in mind, in Jane's situation, she does have a partner. So the idea here is $50,000 would be her share of the down payment towards that purchase of the property. Now, the best thing to do in order to make this work is to make these contributions to these accounts automatic. So the day that you get paid is the day that this money goes into that savings. So right away, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's one of those things you really want to make sure that you're doing this, so then you're not tempted to spend that money in the very similar way to Jane spending that money when that money came in, and end up in a situation where there's no money left at the end of the month. So there you have it, guys. That is a real life situation that I dealt with just a few weeks ago. If you liked this video, please leave a like down below. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends and family. If you gained anything from it, I'm sure they will too. Also, if you have any questions or if you have any topics that you'd like me to cover, please leave those down in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions and make a video on those specific topics in the future. As always, guys, stay safe, take care, and we'll see you guys in the next one.